Hello, good evening. I'm Roger Johnson. Welcome to North West Tonight. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday evening. Our top story. Police are given more time to question the man accused of injuring nearly 80 people at the Liverpool Trophy Parade. The Prime Minister was in the city earlier to meet senior police officers. Also tonight...
How do you respond to allegations that you've been involved in the sale of visa paperwork?
The illicit trade charging agency care staff thousands of pounds for work visas, which should be free. Diving into a row, the organised group of wild swimmers demanding the right to swim in our reservoirs. Cute killers, the return of pine martens, one of Britain's rarest mammals, to the Lake District.
Within a few hundred yards of where we are, somewhere, there is a pine marten. Just fills me with great joy.
And the weather is set to turn much wetter and windier as we head into Thursday. Some heavy rain on the way tonight. I'll have all the details coming up.
The Prime Minister's been in Liverpool in the past couple of hours to meet police and local officials in the wake of Monday's incident when a car crashed into fans celebrating Liverpool Football Club's Premier League title. Also, police have been given more time to question the man who was allegedly driving the car on Water Street. Live to that location to our Merseyside reporter Andy Gill, who's there for us. And Andy, tell us first of all about Sir Keir Starmer's visit.
Yes, Roger, the Prime Minister was at Merseyside Police Headquarters here in Liverpool this afternoon meeting senior police officials, the Police Commissioner, the Metro Mayor Steve Rotherham. Sir Keir Starmer said it was important for him to be there. He said it was awful to see how an incredible joy at an amazing achievement turned to horror in a moment, and he said he wanted to see the detail of what the officials were doing for himself. As you mentioned, Merseyside Police have been given more time to question the man allegedly driving the car that hit fans here on Water Street. They can now keep him in custody without charging him. That time runs into tomorrow. The debate about how much information police release about suspects is very much current because of what happened here. You recall that the police very quickly said that the suspect was a white British man. Contrast that with some delays that happened when they were identifying the man who carried out the Southport attack. Today, Britain's most senior police officer said he thought that police will have to release more information more quickly, more often in the future.
I'm not going to criticise another police chief who makes a judgment in a really difficult, complex situation. Every case needs judging on its merits. I think as we go forward in the future, we would always want to be more transparent in terms of the data we release. Sometimes the nature of the investigation, the nature of the case makes that difficult, but in principle, of course, transparency is good.
Andy, what have the police had to say today about the people who were injured?
They released a statement saying that there are still 7 people in hospital in a stable condition, but that's 4 fewer than were in hospital yesterday. They've also identified more people who were injured, so the total number of people hurt in this incident now stands at 79. Some of the people who've been injured have been talking about their experiences, including a Liverpool fan called Jack Trotter. He was at the parade with his girlfriend Abby when he was hit by that car.
All I hear is just her screaming, Jack, Jack, like, where are you, Jack? I was like, what? And then I put my phone down. And then as soon as I put my phone down, I was actually like face to face with the car. I didn't actually feel, initial pain as soon as I got hit. It was just obviously the adrenaline. The first thought that I got was, where's Abby? And I need to find Abby. Where's Abby? She could be anywhere at this rate. And then lucky enough, she was screaming my name and I found her.
And Andy, Water Street is now, as the rest of the city centre, back to normal.
That's right, Roger. Dale Street, you can see up by the town hall here. That's where all those images of the car began. That's completely open, as is Water Street, completely open to traffic now. Nothing here now to tell you what happened on Monday evening. The Liverpool manager, Arne Slot, meanwhile, last night did not go to an awards ceremony he was due at out of solidarity with those who were injured.
Andy, thank you very much. Andy Gill there, live in Liverpool. Now, an inquest is taking place into the death of a 5-year-old girl from Hyde in Greater Manchester who died from meningitis hours after being discharged from A&E. Lila Marsland's mother took her to Tameside Hospital, where they prescribed antibiotics for suspected tonsillitis. But less than 12 hours later, Lila was dead. Kelly Foran sent this from Stockport Coroner's Court.
Lila was just 2 weeks away from her 6th birthday when she was discharged from Tameside Hospital, sent home with antibiotics for suspected tonsillitis. That night, Lila went to sleep in her mother's bed, but she never woke up. Her mother at the time was a district nurse herself at that hospital. She took her daughter to A&E when her symptoms were vomiting, headache and neck pains. Now, we heard at the inquest today from the consultant who was overlooking A&E that day, Dr. Mohammed Farouk. He'd previously written a statement to say that he visually checked over Lila, but today he told the coroner that his recollection of that was wrong and that in fact he didn't perform any checks on her. The coroner asked if he agrees that that statement was misleading. To that, Dr. Farouk said, "I accept that it was a mistake." We also heard at the inquest today from the triage nurse, the first person to look at Lila when she attended A&E. Leanne Sands had to score Lila's symptoms that day, one being the most urgent, those patients who need to be seen the quickest. 5 was the other end of the scale, the least serious of those cases. Lila that day's symptoms were scored at number 4. She was asked if looking back she would do anything differently. To that she responded no, and at this point Lila's mother had to leave the court. She was so upset. Looking back, crying, she was saying, "Unbelievable, how can you say you wouldn't do anything differently when she's dead?" The nurse and the doctor offered their condolences to Lila's family, who were in court at the inquest today. We're expected to hear from more medical staff who dealt with Lila in the coming days.
That was Kelly Foran reporting from Stockport Coroner's Court. Now, the Environment Agency has officially declared a drought across the northwest due to low water levels in reservoirs and rivers. It says that despite recent rain, water levels remain low, and we are all being encouraged to be aware of our water use. A father has admitted causing the death of his 14-year-old son by dangerous driving when a van that they were in crashed on the M6 in Lancashire. Ryan Morgan from Morecambe was the passenger in the vehicle when it left the carriageway near Lancaster and hit a tree in April. His father was seriously injured. He also admitted driving without a licence and insurance. The Chief Constables of Merseyside and Greater Manchester have warned the government that it will not be able to deliver its pledges to cut crime without more money for policing in next month's spending review. Serena Kennedy and Stephen Watson, together with 4 other police chiefs, wrote to the Times newspaper saying that promises to halve knife crime, cut violence against women and girls and recruit thousands more police officers are all at risk. Now, a BBC North West investigation has uncovered an illegal trade in work visas for migrants on Merseyside. The overseas workers who spoke to us anonymously say that they were charged tens of thousands of pounds for visa documents by an agency and placed in jobs at care homes in Liverpool. In recent years, hundreds of thousands of migrants have arrived in the UK legally on health and social care visas, with a significant proportion of them reporting that they were illegally charged for them. As Dan O'Donoghue reports.
Hello, who's this?
This is the voice of Sham Prakbar.
Are you working as a carer or a senior carer?
He's known on Merseyside as someone who can sort visa paperwork and care home jobs for overseas workers for a hefty fee.
Got a senior care vacancy
in the secretly recorded call with someone posing as a potential client, he discusses an illegal £12,000 charge for a document called a Certificate of Sponsorship, or COS, which should cost nothing.
It'll be around 11.5 or 12. Once the interview is done, when you get the offer letter, you pay the half. Before we give you the COS, you should pay the remaining.
I spent months interviewing workers from India who say they paid this man, Mr. Prabkar, and his associates tens of thousands of pounds. One migrant told me about the process. He didn't want to appear on camera, so we've used an actor to tell his story.
I studied in Liverpool, and after graduation, I was seeking sponsorship to stay in the UK. I was advised to get in touch with a nursing agency. When I contacted them, they informed me the cost was between 11,000 and 13,000 for the sponsorship visa, which was much higher than I anticipated.
I made contact with a whistleblower who used to work alongside Mr Prabkar at an agency on Merseyside which recruits workers for care homes. She told me she witnessed thousands of pounds changing hands. Her words are spoken by an actor.
I saw more than 100 people coming into the office, and I saw one migrant handing over a wad of cash in an envelope, and it was obviously thousands of pounds. They've travelled halfway across the world for a new life in the UK for them and their families, and they just look terrified.
The illegal trade in visas in the care sector is a practice familiar to advisors at Citizens Advice, who are seeing around 120 migrants a month at their centres across the country.
So our advisors often see that people have spent thousands of pounds, often more than £10,000, in order to get a visa. But when they arrive, they find out that the hours aren't there, they have pay withheld. People don't want to raise problems because they know if they're dismissed, they'll not just lose their job, they'll also lose their right to stay in the country.
We invited Mr Prabkar to respond to the allegations, but he declined on multiple occasions.
Yeah, Tim. Mr Prabkar, hiya. I'm a journalist with the BBC. How do you respond to allegations that you've been involved in the sale of visa paperwork?
And on his doorstep, he denied any wrongdoing.
We've got evidence.
I don't do anything.
We've got evidence of that.
I don't know. Somebody might be framing me.
A Home Office spokesman said action would be taken against those who abuse the visa system. For the overseas workers, action can't come soon enough.
This is about the dignity and safety of employees and ultimately the residents in care homes. This can't be ignored.
Dan O'Donoghue, BBC North West Tonight.
We'll hear more on this tomorrow evening. We'll speak to overseas care workers who claim to have faced threats, exploitation and a climate of fear while working at a care home company. Now, you might not remember this, but you'll almost certainly know about it. More than 90 years ago, hundreds of walkers demanding the right to roam staged the famous mass trespass on Kinder Scout in the Peak District. Well, in recent weeks, hundreds of swimmers have been carrying out their own mass trespass in reservoirs. They want the right to access these waters at their own risk, something that's already in place in Scottish law. And of course, they are organised groups of open water swimmers, as opposed to the tragedies that occasionally we have to report on. Let's get more on this from Sian Filcher.
It costs nothing. We don't do any harm to anybody. We don't take unnecessary risks. So what harm are we doing to anybody?
We should have a right to swim. I don't think they should be stopping people from doing it.
Right on our doorstep, we've got something that's free here and should be available to everybody.
Legislation brought in after the privatisation of water companies in 1989 means that reservoirs like this have a duty to provide a reasonable amount of public access to the land and water for recreational use. But many of these sites don't permit swimming.
Swimmers are arguing that this shouldn't be the case, hence the mass trespass here. They want the right to access these waters at their own risk, a right that already exists in Scottish legislation.
In other countries, they have jetties, they have lots of areas where you can go and swim safely, and it's free.
Most deaths have happened in open water when people who didn't mean to go in the water in the first place. But for most people who swim throughout the year, as we said, it's just a very natural thing to do.
Over the years, it's had such a positive impact on my mental health and ability to cope with different stresses in life.
So you've been doing it for about 6 years now?
Yeah, regularly,
Have you ever got into any trouble?
No, not at all, no, never. According to the National Water Safety Forum, 19 people die each year on average while swimming in open water. Both Severn Trent and United Utilities have argued that these waters are very dangerous with hidden hazards. A United Utilities spokesperson said, "We recognise the right to protest, but the reason we don't allow swimming is because it's very dangerous. Kinder and Bottoms reservoirs are operational sites with deep, cold water and hidden hazards." In opposition, Labour said it would explore giving people the right to swim in England's reservoirs. But since they took power, moves to strengthen swimmers' rights have gone quiet. Until a change in the law, these swimmers will continue to be trespassing and infuriating the water companies to make their point. Sian Filcher, BBC North West Tonight.
The reservoir near Glossop seemed pretty cold to me. Here are some of the other stories people are reading this evening from BBC News. And months of traffic disruption has started in Crewe, where preparatory work is underway for the £1 billion rebuild of Leighton Hospital. A 21-year-old has been jailed for a year after a 10 miles an hour police chase in Cumbria. Jack Lowry was eventually stopped by a stinger. And, somewhat quicker, first qualifying races at the Isle of Man TT should be underway around now. The finals will start to get underway at the weekend. You can find out more at bbc.co.uk/local news, or, of course, via the BBC News app. Now, climbing the equivalent of 10 Mount Everests in 50 days, that's the challenge that climber Alex Staniforth from Kendal has set himself. 10 years ago, he was caught up in a terrifying earthquake while preparing to climb Everest. So Alex is marking the anniversary by climbing every mountain in England and Wales. Apparently, there are 446 of them, and he's doing it to raise money for his mental health charity.
Yeah, I think the 446 challenge is a bit of a daft idea, probably the hardest thing I've ever done and attempted. It's 10 years since Everest 2015 on the earthquake, which was, for me, kind of a near-death experience, you know, and it taught me an awful lot about life and challenges and resilience, and ever since then I've wanted to give something back.
So, Alex, tell me a little bit about your charity, what you're raising money for.
Yes, so about 5 years ago, I started a charity called Mind Over Mountains, which is all about restoring mental health through the outdoors and through nature by giving people access to hill walking in amazing places and combining that alongside that professional mental health support, just giving people that space that they need to really walk and talk. And we have day walks and weekend retreats all over England and Wales. And I'm hoping, you know, £100,000 could actually help us to provide, you know, 1,000 more places on our events for people of all backgrounds and all walks of life who maybe don't already access all these, you know, all these amazing places. And for me, being outside and being in nature has been the most powerful tool for managing my own mental health.
You mentioned the earthquake in Nepal. The footage that we showed on Northwest Tonight when we spoke to you just after that had happened was quite shocking, really, the way you were engulfed by a wall of snow. How much has that changed your outlook on life?
I think to experience something like that at 19, it makes you realise what's important, and it makes you realise that we're all on borrowed time and we need to make it count. And that's why I think I keep on challenging myself to try and find out what's possible, to try and inspire people, to try and create something bigger than myself.
You're doing 446 mountains. You're not using any power at all. You're getting between them by bicycle or running. Obviously, you're running up them, climbing up them, whatever it takes. You're only staying in a motorhome overnight. You're doing it all in 50 days. How tough is it, Alex? Sounds really difficult.
Well, we're on day 13 now. This morning I hit over 100 mountains, which is surreal, really, you know, to cover that much ground in a short time. So I'm currently in the Aradig Mountains in North Wales. By the end of this day, I'll have done 1,000 kilometres and 3 times Everest in height gain, which, to be honest, it feels a bit surreal, but I chose to do this. People who are having their own mental health battles don't have that choice, but waking up every morning feeling wiped, never having enough sleep, never having enough time to recover, and then you wake up and think, how on earth am I going to run, you know, 15, 16 mountains today? But somehow you just know that, you know, that discomfort is temporary. You just have to adapt and overcome and keep on moving, really.
Well, listen, you're a quarter of the way through almost. We're really grateful to you for stopping to talk to us, because I think you've got 5 more to do by the end of the day today, haven't you? Alex Staniforth, all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, he was somewhere in North Wales when he was speaking to me a little earlier. But in cricket now, Lancashire have parted company with head coach Dale Benkenstein after a winless first 2 months of the county championship season. Comes the day before Lancashire's opening game at the T20 Blast. Let's go live to Emirates Old Trafford. Anna Jameson's there. She's been following developments today in this story. All changed then, Anna?
Yes, indeed. Fans have been calling for it for some time, Roger, but this afternoon Lancashire confirmed that it had parted ways by mutual consent with Dale Benkenstein. Perhaps an unusual decision mid-season, perhaps inevitable after last Sunday. A disastrous day for Lancashire. They were beaten by an innings and 3 runs inside 3 days by Division 2 leaders Leicestershire. In his final interview with BBC Radio Lancashire, he admitted there were glaring weaknesses within the team.
I made it clear that the squad I thought we signed very well, but with 1 or 2 injuries, we have the same team as we had last year. So how you expect it to be better it's not logical.
And it's not the only departure. Former captain Keaton Jennings left just 2 weeks ago after a disastrous couple of years, really. Lancashire were relegated from the county championship last season, and then they've continued their second-tier slump. They're currently sitting second bottom as the only one of the 18 first-class county teams without a win after 7 rounds, and have won just 3 of their last 21 championship games.
Lancashire are a big club. They're one of the biggest clubs in the country. They shouldn't really be in Division 2. But in truth, I think there is an element of the club being a little bit in transition in terms of trying to bring young players in, trying to develop players. Maybe some players are towards the tail end of their career as well. So in a pretty competitive Division 2, they've found the going tough. They've found players who have been out of form. And at the minute, they're struggling individually and collectively to compete in games.
We know who'll be in caretaker charge, though, Anna.
We do. Former Red Rose all-rounder, fan favourite, Blackpool-born Stephen Croft has been appointed as the interim head coach. He's been speaking to the internal Lancashire media team today.
It's been a bit of a whirlwind morning, to be fair. I think myself and the lads only getting the call this morning, so yeah, it's a lot of change in a short amount of time. But I think hopefully they're going onto that field knowing they're backed with some big belief and just letting them do their thing. There's a lot of quality in that changing room, and hopefully that shines through in the next few days.
So we do have that T20 Blast tomorrow, so quick turnaround as well for Stephen Croft, welcoming Worcestershire riders, easy for me to say. So yeah, it's all systems go. Quick fact as well, the last time they won the T20 Blast, Lancashire Lightning, Roger, Stephen Croft was the captain, so who knows, maybe a lucky charm for Lancashire.
Let's hope so, Anna, thank you very much. Right, just before the weather, they look cute, don't they, these little creatures? They're pine martens, once widespread across Cumbria, but at one stage hunted almost to extinction right across England. Well, now they've been reintroduced to an area of the Lake District, and they appear to be thriving, as our environment correspondent Judy Hobson has been finding out.
Back in the Cumbrian countryside, this plastic branch has been smeared with peanut butter, and pine martens can't resist it. A series of hidden cameras help to keep an eye on these new arrivals.
The idea is that the pine marten needs to stand on its back legs to reach the peanut butter, and then he stands facing the camera that we've got over there on the tree. So we get a beautiful picture of the front of the marten, and martens have got a lovely little creamy bit on the front, and each marten has got a unique pattern of spots and stripes, so we can actually identify individual pine martens just from that picture.
13 pine martens were released near to Grisdale Forest in the autumn. They were brought here from Scotland, where there's a healthy population, but these little creatures don't stay put for long.
We've had one as far north as Fairmere, pretty much made it to Morecambe Bay, and then to the east they've gone as far as Windermere, and to the west pretty much as far as Wastwater. So they cover quite a big area.
Pine martens used to be common here, but with the rise of Victorian shooting estates, they were persecuted.
For hundreds of years, human activities have sort of pushed anything that's wild, anything that's undomesticated, if you like, to the fringes, and perhaps to the brink, often to the brink of extinction. And that's very much the tale of the pine marten.
These predators have an important role to play in the woodland ecosystem, and conservationists believe they can help reduce the decline of the red squirrel.
There's abundant, extensive evidence now from the Republic of Ireland, from Scotland, that where pine martens coexist with red and grey squirrels, the grey squirrel population declines. In other words, they prey disproportionately upon the grey squirrels, and in so doing, they reduce the prevalence of this squirrel pox virus. And squirrel pox is the leading cause of red squirrel decline and extinction in this county and right across the UK.
This area of South Cumbria was deemed perfect for the project, and the landowner was keen to get on board.
This area has been chosen because it's a very natural environment, of somewhere that would benefit pine martens very well. It's got all sorts of little hidey holes, broken walls and places where they could get into. I've got a book called Fauna that was edited in 1892, and it tells you about all the wildlife that used to be here. And there was all sorts of things that aren't here now, water voles and curlews, but also, more importantly, pine martens.
This is one of several reintroduction projects being carried out by the team at the University of Cumbria.
The very fact that we're filming in a woodland where within a few hundred yards of where we are somewhere there is a pine marten holed up in a hollow tree or under a rocky outcrop just fills me with great joy, and this woodland is somehow quite special and quite different just simply because of the presence of that animal, whether you see it or not, whether it's on the camera or not.
It's hoped the pine martens will now breed, so they'll once again thrive in these Cumbrian forests. Judy Hobson, BBC North West Tonight, Graithwaite.
Right, straight on to the weather. Here's Jen Bartram.
Hello there, good evening. Many of us have enjoyed blue skies today, but it's all change as we move towards Thursday, a much wetter and windier day in prospect. We have this weather system moving in as we head through the night tonight, and this warm front will bring a spell of particularly heavy rain and some strong winds as well. But for the next few hours, it's actually dry and fine out there to end the day. It's not until the middle part of the night that this rain starts to edge in, but it will be heavy. You can see from the green and blue colours on the map that rain will be torrential at times. Temperatures overnight down to around 11 or 12 degrees, so a very mild night, and that wind really picking up from the southwest. So tomorrow morning it is going to be a wet and windy start, still some heavy rain for a time. It will tend to ease off though, so there will be some drier weather, especially through tomorrow afternoon, where we may see some sunny spells as well. Temperatures tomorrow between 17 and 19 degrees for the most part, and it is going to be windy with wind gusts in excess of 30 miles per hour. As we move through Thursday and on towards Friday, there's a slice of drier weather, but we still have weather fronts close by. So Friday is actually getting off to a fairly damp start, but it won't last too long. So we see that weather front clearing away on Friday. There'll be some sunny spells breaking through, but it is going to be staying quite windy. Still a brisk wind on Friday. Temperatures up to around 19 degrees Celsius. Looking further ahead into the weekend, it stays unsettled. We are expecting there to be some sunny spells on Saturday, but the chance of a shower as well.
Thanks, Jen. That's it. Thank you for watching. Whatever you're doing, have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.